Hey Courtyard, are you guys ready for some science today? All right, so we're gonna do a quick review of what we've been learning the past couple of weeks in science. So if you remember, we've been studying skeletons of all different kinds. So we're studying three main types of skeletons. So I spent my morning making some really strange things that'll help us to further understand what the different kinds of skeletons are. So the first one we have, everyone's gonna pretend it's not a sock, but a sea cucumber, because you're my buddies. This is our sea cucumber. Now, if you remember, the one skeleton we talked about that doesn't have a hard exterior or bones inside, it has a watered tube or a liquid-filled tube inside of it, and this is called a hydrostatic skeleton. Now, sea cucumbers, jellyfish, worms all have this hydrostatic skeleton, which is essentially just a little, like I said, tube of liquid right in the middle. And they use it by using their muscles wrapped around that tube. They squeeze and contract the muscles to create motion. So if you'll watch, when I squeeze this side, it moves. Now, why is that? Well, because our sea cucumber here is filled with its own Miss Heather made hydrostatic skeleton, which is actually just a tube of water. And that's actually a lot like what the worms' insides look like. It's just that long, narrow strip for them to squeeze their muscles against in order to create motion, because we talked about that, right? Hydrostatic skeletons are for motion and movement. Now, the next type of skeleton we talked about is the skeleton that provides protection. Remember, we talked about that too. Protection is created by an exoskeleton. Now, an exoskeleton is usually made up of lots of different plates, like this little bug creature that I've created here. He doesn't have eyes, I'm sorry. But you'll see that his different plates, they can move because they're separate, but also they're nice and hard. So if our friend here gets tapped or hit or hurt, his outsides are really strong and they're going to protect him from whatever it is that's threatening him. But inside, he's going to be all soft and squishy, just like we are kind of on the outside, right? So exoskeletons provide protection to our little friends like this. And a lot of creatures with exoskeletons are insects, arachnids like spiders, also any crustaceans like lobsters and crabs. They've got a nice solid exoskeleton. All right, and our third type of skeleton, oh man, guys, I tried so hard, but you know me, and art is not my specialty. That's all Miss Kathy. But our third type of skeleton is an endoskeleton. And endoskeletons are really important to us because we have them. And endoskeletons, if you'll remember, provide strength. So we have the hydrostatic that gives us movement. We have the exoskeleton for protection. And then we have the endoskeleton for strength. Now, I've made a little friend out of clay because that's what you do when you have nothing else to do in the morning except for come up with science lessons. And this guy right here is made of just simple clay like what we use in class. He'll wave at you, see, hi. Now, the really cool thing about this guy is he can, in fact, stand up. Is this because he's made of clay? No. If he was just clay, he'd probably bend and flop over. This isn't great clay. But our friend here has something inside, just like we do. Not little bones, but in fact, let's pull them apart and take a look. Ah! Do we see these, guys? Those are toothpicks. For him, the toothpicks act like bones, and those bones help him to stay sturdy and standing. Don't try this at home. So here's our buddy here who's able to stand up all on his own because he's got that endoskeleton, and it's surrounded by his soft, squishy body. But inside, he's got a nice, strong frame that gives him structure, allows him to move around, but also keeps him upright and not just a big ball of clay, or in our case, a big bag of flesh and blood and guts. We wouldn't be very cute that way, I don't think. Well, maybe some of you guys would, but me, I think I'd be kind of terrifying looking. And it would be really hard to find shirts that fit. Anyways, I want to play a quick game with you, if you guys remember, and you can play at home. It's really easy. All you have to do is with your body show me endoskeleton, exoskeleton, or hydrostatic skeleton. So we always use the example first for the hydrostatic skeleton of a worm. When I say worm, you're going to do the motion for hydrostatic skeleton. Just get all wiggly. I know some of my kinder friends are really good at this. First and second grade, you guys got to catch up. Then we have our exoskeleton things like spiders or crabs. They've got a nice solid exoskeleton. And then we have our endoskeleton, bones inside. Now, is it always bones? No. As Søren liked to point out, sharks are made up of cartilage, which isn't quite bone. It's a lot softer, but it's still an endoskeleton. It provides them with structure and strength inside, but it's fit just for them. And we'll talk about that when we start talking about animals a little bit more. But let's play our game. So I'm gonna name an animal and you gotta show me, remember? Hydrostatic, exo, or endo. So let's play. You ready? What do you do when I say grasshopper? All right, if you said exoskeleton, you're correct. Good job. What about octopus? Hydrostatic skeleton for octopus. Good job. All right, what about cat? Anybody for cat? What do you think? Endoskeleton. Cats have got bones just like we do. What about, let's see if I can come up with a tricky one. What about Tiffany? I would take Tiffany out right now. She's just sleeping right up here, but she's got herself all buried and she's cozy, so I'm gonna leave her there for now. But what about Tiffany? What kind of skeleton does Tiffany have? If you said exoskeleton, you're correct. If you said endoskeleton, you're also correct. She's got a really cool shell on the outside to protect her that she can close around her body, but also she's got bones inside just like we do. So she has an endoskeleton. She's a pretty cool creature. What about slugs? Slugs are hydrostatic. They've got a nice little tube of water to keep them moving. All right, last one. What about Miss Krause? If you said exoskeleton, you're wrong. Miss Krause does not have an exoskeleton. She's actually got an endoskeleton because she's a person just like us. All right, so now let's focus on those skeletons that we have. So we started learning about this last week, if you remember. We started talking about what the different bones in our body are called. And it's important that we learn the bones in our body because a lot of animals have similar bones in their body. Whether they name the same thing or they've got specialized ones, we'll take a look at that too. But we're gonna start out with our bones. So does anybody remember, and you can shout it at the screen, let me know if you remember the name of the skeleton, the bone that's sitting right in here, and it protects our brain. Who remembers that? That, some of you guys are gonna say skull, and if you are really, really clever and have a really good memory, you'll remember the other term we learned was cranium. So this is our skull or our cranium. Next, we didn't talk about this one too much, but right here, this bone that connects our lower head to the upper part of our head, this is our jawbone. We call this the mandible. And the mandible helps us to crunch and chew things and also to talk. If we didn't have our mandible, we'd talk like this because we couldn't get any of our mouth to close to make the sounds. And that would be really silly. So it's a good thing we have a mandible. Next, we talked about right back here, we've got these triangle-shaped bones on our shoulder blades. These shoulder blades are called our scapula. Our scapula are the triangle-shaped ones on the back right here. If you remember when we were using Harriet as an example, she has those nice triangle-shaped bones back here, and we pointed to those. You have them too, it's just yours are covered with beautiful flesh. They're your scapula. Now up front, first and second grade, we learned about this. We have these bones right here. That we call them your collarbone or your clavicle. I was telling first and second grade, that's my favorite bone name is the clavicle because it sounds pretty cool. Next up, we have the bone that's right in the middle here. This is your sternum, and your sternum is also called your breastbone. It's the nice, strong, soft spot where doctors will press if they have to do CPR because it can help to jumpstart your heart. Next, speaking of heart, my friend JC likes to call this one his heart basket. It's a set of bones that protects our lungs and our heart, and it's our rib cage. Your rib cage keeps you so that you can breathe, it moves with you, but also it keeps all of the soft, sensitive organs you have up here in place and safe. They break really easy though. If you remember the video we watched, even a really hard sneeze can break ribs sometimes. But don't worry, they heal on their own. It's just gonna have to take a lot of rest and relaxation, something we're gonna get really good at over this next couple of weeks. Next up, we have the bones in our arm. Who remembers those ones? Does anybody remember this one? It's got a funny name. That's my hint to you. This bone here is called your humerus. Your humerus is the big strong bone in your arm, and it's connected into your shoulder right here so that we can swing it around and around. The humerus is here, and then the lower arm bones, you've got your radius and your ulna. Your radius and your ulna. Check those out. If you want to see them, what you would do is just pull your wrist back a little bit tight, and you can kind of see in the shadows there's two separate bones going here, right? You can see it really good with the lighting. Your radius and your ulna, and those two are right here. Then in the hands, we have our carpals, our metacarpals, and our phalanges. That seems to be, I think, Noah T, that's your favorite, is phalanges. So we have our phalanges. We also have phalanges down on our toes too, right? But we'll get to those. Now, moving on, from your neck all the way down, you have some vertebrae, or your backbones. Your backbones all form together to help you to be able to bend and move, but also help you stand upright, just like our friend here. He doesn't have a name. If somebody wants to give me a name, like, have your parents let me know what it is. Well, I'll make him look a little bit nicer as time goes on. But our backbones are really, really crucial for us to be able to stand up and to bend over and relax. They're a really amazing part of our body. Next up, everybody's favorite, we talked about that guy. Apparently he's friends with Santa Claus and he lives in Las Vegas. Elvis, and we remember Elvis likes to shake his pelvis, right? So your pelvis is your hip bone. It's the one that kind of looks like a butterfly when we were doing our diagram. So the pelvis is your hip bones, and it holds on to the base of your spine. And remember, it sticks out just a little bit. There's that little bone piece, your tailbone. It's not really a tail. Maybe once upon a time it was, but it's just that little tiny bone that's hanging into your pelvis is your tailbone. And your pelvis is what we like to shake when we're dancing to Go Noodle songs. Next up, we have our leg bones. In our legs, we've got the big one here. We got our femur. The femur is the biggest bone in your body. The biggest. And it's strong and it helps us to stand upright, and it is not a fun bone to break, guys, let me tell you. Then down here, we've got our patella. Remember, it's kind of triangular, kind of round, right here on the tip of our knee. Just go ahead and tap your kneecaps. We did that in class. Your kneecaps are your patellas. Then we move on down, and we've got two bones in the leg, just like we do in the forearm. These two bones are your tibia and your fibula. And remember, we said it's easy to remember fibula because a fib is a small lie. So a fibula is a small bone, and it's right here on the outside. The tibia is the one you can feel if you do this down the front of your leg. Your tibia is the big strong bone in your leg. Then we move on down, and then right here on your foot, you've got your tarsals, which are right here, your ankle bone area. Then a little further down, you've got your metatarsals, and then you've got some more phalanges that help you to wiggle your toes. So those are the bones in your body, my friends. Now, I have a fun project for those of you who are feeling artsy and a little bit bored. I want you to roll back to the first thing we talked about, the 3 skeletons. If you remember, there was hydrostatic skeleton, exoskeleton, and endoskeleton. So for each of those, if you could do me a favor, pick your favorite animal in the whole world, and then guess what kind of skeleton it has. But luckily you don't have to guess. You can also use your parents as a resource, or the internet with your parents' permission. Find out what kind of skeleton your favorite animal has, and then try to draw it. See what you come up with. So I drew my favorite animal. It's a really special one. The jellyfish. Now my jellyfish doesn't have a shell to protect it. He doesn't have bones inside, so he has a hydrostatic skeleton. Just some water here that he pushes his muscles against to go bloop, 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 bloop. So I drew my jellyfish for you guys to take a look at. I really look forward to seeing your art. If you do make some art, go ahead and ask your parents to upload it to the Facebook chatter page for Courtyard, or you can send it to me directly at hdominguez@courtyard.org. I hope you guys had some fun in science today. I'm looking forward to doing some really fun experiments with you. If you have any questions, please let me know, and I miss you all, and I hope you're having a wonderful time. Bye, guys.